The truth is, you are never going to constantly feel motivated. Motivation is an emotion that comes and goes and is easily influenced by external distractions and our tendency to pursue instant gratification. Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. I hope you are having an amazing start to your week. So, today we're going to kick things off. Before we dive too deep into the topic of today's conversation, I want to start this episode off with a little bit of a thinking practice, because it's going to help tie into what we're talking about today. So, what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes and think. Now, if you are listening to this while you're driving, please do not close your eyes. You can do this with your eyes open, but this might just help to visualize if you've got them closed. So, I want you to imagine a friend or a person that you have in your life that is flaky, unreliable. You know that you can't count on them to come through when you need them. And they're typically not the person that you would go to if you had a really important task that you needed to get done. You know that this person would not show up for you if you needed them to. Do you have somebody in mind? Okay, good. Keep that person in your mind. Now, I want you to think of the most reliable person in your life. This person will show up for you consistently. You know that they will be there if you need them. This person, Mel Robbins has talked about the person in your life who is that 4 a.m. friend that you know that even in the middle of the night, if you had to call on them, they would be there consistently to help you with what you need. So think of that friend or that person in your life that you know is just going to show up no matter what. Okay? Got that person in mind? Good. Now, throughout the discussion, keep these two people in the back of your mind, okay? Now, I want you to think of a goal that you have. Maybe it's to exercise a little bit more, maybe it's to cut back on your alcohol intake. Whatever it is for you, let's say you decided to bring a friend into the mix to help kind of keep you on track and keep you going with your goal. Which friend would you choose to help you out with this? Is it that flaky, unreliable friend? My guess is probably not. It certainly wouldn't be my first choice. So, in terms of your mindset working towards your goals, that flaky friend is motivation. We're constantly putting off goals and tasks because we don't feel motivated or because we're waiting on motivation to just kind of hit us like a ton of bricks one morning and suddenly we will be ready and motivated to tackle all of our goals. But the truth is, you are never going to constantly feel motivated. Motivation is an emotion that comes and goes and is easily influenced by external distractions and our tendency to pursue instant gratification over long-term success. When the initial excitement of anything really is gone, the motivation's typically gone with it. So you might be wondering, if motivation is so hard to keep around, how are we supposed to get anything done? Well, great question. Remember the exercise we just did? We have a second friend. That second friend that you thought of that is consistent, that always shows up, and that will always follow through when you need them to, that friend is discipline. Having discipline means continuously showing up for yourself and doing the things that you know you need to do no matter how you feel, because you know those actions are necessary for building long-term success. Discipline means setting aside your emotions about something and getting it done. Discipline is an infinitely important skill when it comes to accomplishing goals. It can sometimes feel really hard to harness, which makes sense because honestly, discipline is not flashy or fun the way that motivation is. It isn't this trendy thing that you're going to love doing in the moment. In all honesty, it's going to feel really hard. But as hard as it is, discipline, like a lot of things that we talk about in this show, it is something that you can work on. Discipline is a skill. So it is something that you can improve on over time and it will feel a little bit easier to harness and use. So we're going to go through some tips to kind of help you cultivate discipline so that you can use this as a tool to help you achieve the goals that you're wanting to achieve, to help you show up in the way that you're wanting to show up every day. So the first thing that we can do to help kind of cultivate discipline and make it a little bit easier to follow through on our actions is to figure out your why. behind what you're doing. This is a big thing that will help you stay much more consistent with what you're doing. If you have kind of an overarching reason for what you're doing, an overarching meaning behind the actions that you're taking every day, why do you want to achieve this goal? Why does it matter to you? What kind of person are you hoping to be because of these habits? Having that bigger why will help drive your actions and can kind of be your North Star to focus on when you are feeling really discouraged and feeling unmotivated. Now, if you don't know what your why is, that's fine. It's totally fine. A lot of people don't. So we're going to go through an exercise to help you figure this out. So the method that we're going to use to help determine your overarching why is called the 5 whys method. The 5 whys method was created as a problem-solving method. It was originally created by Sakachi Toyota and was initially used as a core part of the Toyota production system. They would actually use this as a way to determine the root cause of a problem. So this method involves starting with a why-based question, and I'll walk you through an example of how this will look so you can kind of easily implement this into your own situation. So let's say your goal is to get in better shape and start exercising more. The first question you're going to ask yourself, why do I want to get in shape? Now your answer may be something along the lines of, I don't like the way I look right now. Okay? So once we have our answer to our first why-based question, you're going to ask yourself why again. Why don't you like the way you look right now? So your answer to this question may look something like, I don't feel confident or capable of doing the things that I want to do. And again, ask yourself why. Why don't you feel confident or capable of doing the things that you want to do? Your answer may look something like, I can't do the amount of activity that I used to be able to, and I want to be able to do more. Again, ask yourself why. Why do you want to be able to do more? Your answer may look something like, I want to be able to go hiking with my partner again. And then, one more time, ask yourself why. Why do you want to be able to go hiking with your partner again? And your answer may look something like, it was something we used to do all the time early on in our relationship, and I don't feel as connected to my partner now that I can't join them on their hikes. So do you see how asking these 5 why-based questions allows you to dig a little bit deeper into what your thinking is, what the root cause is for you wanting to go after this goal or this habit? So something as simple as, I want to exercise more and I want to get in better shape. We dig a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's got more meaning attached to it. It becomes more about being able to show up and connect with our partner in a way that we feel like we aren't able to anymore. So you can implement this method no matter what your goal is. Just take your initial goal, ask yourself why you are wanting to go after that, why you are wanting to change your habits in the way that you've chosen to. Once you have an answer, ask yourself why again, and repeat that process 5 times over, and you will find that you end up with a much deeper, more meaningful answer than maybe you started out with. And so your answer to that final why question, that deeper meaning behind what you're doing, you can kind of use that as your overarching meaning, as your North Star, so that when you are feeling unmotivated, when you're feeling like giving up, remind yourself of that deeper meaning. Remind yourself that this is why I'm showing up, this is why I chose to do this thing, and it becomes a little bit easier to follow through because you have a more meaningful thing to hold on to and to push you to keep showing up. So the second thing that we can do to help cultivate more discipline, help keep us on track and keep us focused with what we're doing, is to treat the promises you made to yourself like a mandatory part of your day. Make them your non-negotiables. If your boss sent out an email about a mandatory meeting for your job tomorrow afternoon, would you flake out on it? Would you make excuses not to go? No, probably not, right? It's a mandatory part of your day. This is part of your job. You're expected to show up, no questions asked. So what I want you to do is start treating showing up the same way you would that mandatory meeting. A big part of making this a non-negotiable, mandatory part of your day is taking the time to schedule it and plan it in. So I'll give you an example. Let's say your goal is to work out 4 times a week. Instead of saying, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it, let's just aim to show up to the gym 4 times this week. Don't know what day, don't know what time. I'm just going to do it when I feel like doing it. Do you see how that kind of sets you up for failure? Because you can start out the week having this intention to go 4 times throughout the week and work out, and then suddenly Monday ends up being really busy. Tuesday you have this meeting that you didn't plan on, and so you say, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow, I'll get to it tomorrow. It's only 4 days, I can make it up here, I can do it here, and before you know it, the week's over and you haven't done it at all. So it's really important to really take the time to plan and schedule these things in, because it eliminates that decision-making process. It eliminates us having to make these snap decisions at the last minute as to whether or not we want to do this thing and how we're going to fit it into our schedule. It becomes this thing of like, oh, it's Monday at 11 o'clock. This is the thing I have in my schedule. This is what I'm going to do. No questions, no decision making. It's much easier to just tackle it and get on with it. So the first place we can start when we're creating a plan for these habits that we want to do is by asking ourselves a couple of questions about it. So we'll go with the example of wanting to work out 4 times a week. So ask yourself questions like, how long am I going to be working out for? Where am I working out? How long is it going to take me to travel there? What days of the week can I fit this into my schedule? Okay, do you have your answers for that? Now, what we can do is take your schedule for those days and find the places where you can slip that chunk of time in and just plan it into your day the same way you would a doctor's appointment or a work meeting. I'll give you an example of how I do this. So for my full-time job, I have a bunch of home visits that I have to plan throughout the day. And I use an app that plans my entire day down to the half hour. So every half hour chunk is kind of blocked off separately, and I can go in and I can write, this is what I'm doing from 9 to 9:30, this is what I'm doing from 9:30 to 10:30, etc., etc. And so I'll put in all of my home visits on that schedule so that when I open it up in the morning as I'm planning my day, I can say, okay, this is where I need to be, this is where I need to go. And along with putting in all of my work commitments, I find a 2-hour window and stick it in there to go to the gym. I plan it in the same way I do the rest of my work commitments so that when it gets to that time of my schedule, there's no question of, oh, how am I going to fit this in? How am I going to make it work? I've already planned aside the time. It's already set. I'm already ready to go. I don't have to think about it. It's just, okay, it's time for me to do this thing on my schedule. Let's head to the gym and get it done. Becomes much easier. This is really helpful too because it eliminates that decision fatigue that I think we can all get when it comes to creating new habits, because we don't have to try and figure things out to make it work right at the time that we're wanting to do it. We get to do the decision making ahead of time, plan it out when it's much easier to kind of see the whole structure of our day. And then it just becomes this really easy part of your day. You don't even really have to think about it. You just follow your schedule the way that it's laid out. So the third thing that we can do to help cultivate discipline is actually tell yourself that you are a disciplined person. So the first episode of this podcast, we talked about self-talk and how the way that you talk to yourself impacts the way that you show up in your day-to-day life, and it's no different for this. So if you tell yourself things like, I'm a disciplined person, I'm someone who shows up and does the things that they need to no matter what, or I can rely on myself to get this done, what it does is it creates this narrative of you being a disciplined, reliable person, and your brain will look for patterns to help support that. And so it will seek out those behaviors that you are trying to do in order to support the narrative that you are a disciplined person. And so it'll actually make it feel a little bit easier for you to show up and do these things because it becomes a part of your identity. You become someone who is disciplined by telling yourself that's who you are. And the flip side of this is true. So if you tell yourself things like, I never follow through on things, I never achieve my goals, I never, get to the finish line, I always quit when things get hard, I can't do it, I'm not capable, I'm just gonna mess it up like I did last time. Telling yourself those things creates this narrative that you are not disciplined, not reliable, and not someone who shows up when they need to. And so the same thing, your brain will look for proof of that being true. And so in order to support these negative things that you're saying, it will hold you back from taking the actions that you need to do, and it will make that narrative your reality. And if you're just starting out with this, it can feel really hard to say, blanket positivity statements right out of the gate if it's not something that you believe. So maybe telling yourself, I am a disciplined person, doesn't feel like your reality, that doesn't feel believable to you, that doesn't feel like a helpful statement. That's fine. We all have to start somewhere. If you are someone who is used to a lot of really negative self-talk, it can be hard to just kind of flip that switch immediately. So we can start by working on this in a way that kind of eases you into it a little bit more. So instead of going from, I can't do it, I'm a failure, to I'm a disciplined person, you can say something along the lines of, discipline is something that I have struggled with in the past, but I'm working to get better at it, right? Or showing up and achieving my goals, or showing up and doing the things that I need to do is something that I haven't always followed through on, but it's something that I'm working on to improve. You see how that's a little bit different? It's not kind of a complete shift over to positivity and things that maybe don't feel real for you. It creates this atmosphere of, I'm trying, I'm working, and I'm aiming towards improving on this skill. And so the same thing. Your brain will look for proof that that is true, and it'll help support you in improving this skill and showing up a little bit more than you were before. How you talk to yourself matters so much, and it will have such a huge impact on how you show up in your day-to-day. And so it's the same thing with discipline as it is for any other aspect of your life. If you want to be more disciplined, start creating a narrative that you are someone who's disciplined. You get to choose how you show up by choosing how you talk to yourself. Okay? So that's what we've got for today. These are the tips that I want you to take and kind of implement into your day-to-day to help you create a little bit more discipline and help you have an easier time just showing up for the things that you want to show up for. So just to recap, figure out your why, make your habit a non-negotiable part of your day by planning it into your schedule, and work on your self-talk. Tell yourself that you are a disciplined person and that you are capable of achieving these things. Okay? So that's what I've got for you today. And I want to hear from you about this. So my work for you this week, I want you to identify one thing that you have done to work towards a goal of yours. You can either let me know in the comments or share it on your Instagram and tag me at MindsetGymPod and let me know, because I'd love to celebrate with you. If you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.
If you like the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support allows this show to reach even more amazing people just like you, and it means the absolute world to me. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.